Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Chapter 13, Text 35. So, you say that, what I just said? Kshetra kshetragyayarevam Antarang jnana chakshusha Bhuta prakriti mokshang cha Ye vidur yanti te param. Bhagavan Sri Krishna spoke this Bhagavad-gita to Arjuna to give him the eyes of knowledge. In this verse is mentioned Jnana Chakshusha, the eye of knowledge. Who has the vision of knowledge? So even today, those who understand Bhagavad-gita as it is can have the same vision of knowledge that Arjuna was awarded by Krishna. Now what is the vision of knowledge? A person in ignorance sees the land, the trees, the rivers, the people, and a person with the vision of knowledge also sees land, rivers, trees, people. But one who has knowledge knows what is the difference between the body and the proprietor of the body. What is the process of freedom from bondage. So a person in ignorance sees this material world as a place for me to enjoy and to try to dominate. And a person in knowledge knows that I cannot enjoy, this place is not a place for my enjoyment. I do not belong in this place. This material world is a place of suffering. I am an eternal spirit soul. I am the eternal servant of Krishna. So one who is ajnana chakshusha, one who has vision without knowledge, tries to enjoy this material. And one with knowledge knows that I can't enjoy this material world. I'm not meant to enjoy this material world. He doesn't become entangled in this world, but uses everything in this world for the service of Krishna. So one has to understand all these points very carefully. What is the body? The body seems to be me. When we are hungry, we say, I feel hungry. I don't know how you say it, Tamil. Actually, you say the same thing. In Hindi, you'd say, bhuk lag raha hu. Hunger is attacking me or something. It means something like that. Bengali also. Kida lagji. It's affecting me. Hunger is affecting me. Huh? But the idea is that me, I am hungry. So conventionally we may say this in an ordinary way. But a person in knowledge understands that the soul is not, the body is experienced. He also understands who is the proprietor of the body. So that could be considered the jiva who is in the body as the proprietor of the body, in one sense. But the ultimate proprietor of everything is Krishna. So a devotee of Krishna knows that I am not the body, but at the same time he knows that I have to use this body to serve Krishna. In Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita there is a narration of Sanatana Goswami, one of the greatest devotees of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was actually from a high-class Brahmin family, but due to force of circumstances had been engaged in the service of the Muslim ruler of Bengal. So he was bahishkrita. He was rejected from Brahmin society. Nowadays we find so many Brahmins, they're very proud. I'm a Brahmin and I'm working for some big computer company owned by some beef-eating person. But in those days they were very strict. If anyone took a salary, immediately you're not a Brahmin. I didn't say Shudra. Actually the Shudras, they didn't take salaries either. They were owned. So anyway, Sanatana Goswami was rejected from the standard Hindu society, although he was accepted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he could not enter the temple at Puri according to the strict rules of Hindu society. Even today the Western devotees of ISKCON are not allowed to enter Jagannath's temple at Puri. Although if a Muslim dressed Indian Muslim dresses in pants and shirt, they can't tell he's a Muslim, and he can go inside. So Sanatana Goswami, he couldn't enter the temple of Jagannath, and also he had severe rashes. It's called in English a weeping rash. That means from his body there was so much pus coming. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would daily embrace Sanatana Goswami out of love. So Sanatana Goswami thought that, you see, it's a great offense for me to be embraced by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and to contaminate his body with all the pus from my body. So I'm making these offenses to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and I can't enter the Jagannath temple. What's the use of being alive? So he decided, he didn't tell anyone, but secretly he decided that at the upcoming Rath Yatra of Lord Jagannath, he will throw himself, his body, before the wheels of the Ratham, and in this way end his life. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the Antaryami, the indwelling seer in everyone's heart, he knew that Sanatana Goswami was secretly planning. So one day he told him, "Hey Sanatan, what are you thinking of? You surrendered your life to me, you became my disciple. And you see, so your body belongs to me. So what kind of behavior is it that you want to destroy someone else's property?" He said, "I have so many things to do through you, but if you commit suicide, then how will you be able to do any service?" Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said, "If I could get Krishna Prem by throwing myself before the chariot of Jagannath, then I would do it 1,000 times. But that's not the way to get Krishna Prem." So the point to be understood from this is that we are not the proprietor of the body. Ultimately, Bhagavan, He is the proprietor. He has given us this body and it's meant to be used in His service. And by doing that, one can get, as is mentioned in this verse, moksha, liberation from material existence. And then one can go to ye vidu yanti te param. Those who know this, they go to the supreme, that is the parampad, the supreme position. That they say in the Sri Vaishnava Sambhava, parampad means the Vaikuntha, or even beyond Vaikuntha, Golok Vrindavan. So this is being instructed in Bhagavad. It is all meant to lead us to the platform of Krishna Prem, pure love of Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given a very easy process for the modern age. Haran Nama, Haran Nama, Haran Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Gatiranyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other way, no other way, no other way but to chant the names of Krishna, chant the names of Krishna, chant the names of Krishna. But at the same time, one has to understand these basic principles of spiritual knowledge. Otherwise, if one doesn't have clear understanding, one may perform some kind of bhakti, but it won't become pakka, it won't become solid. So Krishna is recommending here, one should know what is the difference between the body, the material nature, the spiritual nature. All these things should be understood. Without understanding these points very clearly, one can not have a clear concept of what is bhakti. And therefore we find some people, they're performing bhakti, but without proper knowledge, and therefore they remain more or less on the material plane. Unless one clearly understands that I am not the body, I have nothing to do with this material world, then he will remain attached to this material world. And so one may be doing bhakti, but expecting some kind of material result. Or one will remain very much attached to home. In this chapter is mentioned, Putra Dara Griha Dishu, to children, wife and home. Now a Vaishnava, of course, a Vaishnava can be a Grihastha, but a Vaishnava who lives at home is different to a materialist, because a materialist thinks that my home, my wife, my family is everything, all in all. But a devotee understands that all these things are temporary. My real relationship is with Krishna, and ideally all the family members, they cooperate to serve Krishna. So one shouldn't presume, however, that because I'm doing bhakti and I'm chanting and I'm a Vaishnava Grihastha, that automatically I'm on the liberated platform. Unless one is deliberately cultivating this knowledge, the tendency is to cultivate ignorance. Unless one regularly hears about these topics from Bhagavad-gita, then the tendency is to remain attached to material things. And therefore, people, we find that people, they judge religion in terms of some material results. They have these miracles. You see, you go to some religious assembly and they touch someone and they become free from some disease. And people think, well, this is proof of God's power. They're so foolish, they don't think that you have some disease, but still you got free from some disease, still you have to die. So the really valuable help is to help people to get free from birth, death, old age and disease permanently. That is God's real mercy. But people think that I am this body and this body is to be enjoyed, and therefore they think that God's mercy is to help me enjoy in this material world. But the real mercy of God is to help us understand that we don't belong in this material world at all. We belong with Him in the spiritual. So we have to rise above material attachment. In this purport, Srila Prabhupada stresses that this knowledge has to be understood with the help of the spiritual master. Unfortunately, in the modern age, due to ignorance, the gurus, they don't give spiritual knowledge. People think that sadhus are magic men. Yadu is the Mandravali. Tantravadi. Yeah, of course the tantrics, they have some powers, but that's very low class. They use all bhutas and all this. So the same thing, they do these miracles, but actually it's not the power of God, it's some bhutas. So, but you see in Vedic culture, there's always been these tantrics, they're rather low class. So, but the high class or the real sadhu is not tantravadi but mantravadi. I mean, they give spiritual knowledge. They give spiritual knowledge. That is the meaning of initiation. Diksha. Divyam jnanam yato dadyat purva papasya sankshaya. This di means divya jnana, spiritual knowledge. And sha, diksha. So ksha stands for kshayam, means destruction. Purva papasya sankshayam. It means the complete destruction of all previously committed sins. Not only destruction of previous sins, but even the tendency to commit sins is destroyed by attaining spiritual knowledge. So it's not just a formality. One has to understand this spiritual knowledge by hearing. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna Prema Pradaya, the giver of Krishna Prema. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gora Tvishay Namaha. Rupa Goswami Prabhupada offered respects to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this way. He said, I offer my respects to you who are the most magnanimous, because you are liberally distributing Krishna Prema. You are Krishna come as Krishna Chaitanya, the name of Krishna Chaitanya, and with a golden countenance. So he is giving Krishna Prema, but we find in the Sampradaya of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's not just a matter of saying Prema. There's Shastras that we understood. Now, of course, not everyone can be a great scholar. It's not required. At least those who are guiding the Vaishnava society, they should understand all the imports of Shastra. But we find that in Bengal, where the Sampradaya of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very prominent, there were so many Vaishnava poets who transmitted the essence of all Shastric understanding in simple songs. So we sing many of these songs even today in our ISKCON. So just like, for instance, we sing Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadhma. So it's very simple language but very deep import. And actually to sing that song, one has to be very advanced. To actually sing that and mean it. It's easy to say, but to actually mean it. Guru Mokha Padma Vakya Chitete Korya Aika Ana Korihamane Asha. That the words from the lotus mouth of the Guru, I make that one with my heart, and I don't desire anything else. So that actually should be the position of the disciple. But many times we see that people take initiation, but they're not really developing that move. Of course, in the modern age, there is the Pancharatriki Diksha according to the Pancharatric system, in which those who show some inclination to bhakti, they may not be fully surrendered, but they have the tendency for that, then they're initiated. But then they should apply themselves very seriously. It's not that just you take Diksha and that's it, all finished. But that means the beginning. So one should hear and serve very carefully, and in this way one gradually becomes purified. As some people, they think, well, you just take initiation and then that's it, finished. then where is the purification? One has to become purified to enter the kingdom of God. Sometimes people think, well, our rules are very strict. It's no onion, no meat, that's bad enough. But then no onion, no garlic, no tea, no coffee. But actually there's more rules. No TV, no cinema. You think, oh, that's really very strict. But the thing is, if we want Krishna Bhakti, then you can't be a materialist and be a devotee. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is famous for being mad for Krishna. He didn't, in the middle of his kirtan, he didn't take coffee breaks. Chanting, dancing, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh, it's time for coffee. Okay. Sit down, drink coffee, talk some nonsense, and then I go back. No, not like that. In fact, his servant would have to call him and make him, all right, sit down, take some prasad, because he, what's prasad, he wasn't even thinking. For him it was just some routine, but his real absorption was in Krishna Kirtan. So that's a very advanced state. For us it's round the other way. We want to know where's the prasad. That's the main thing. We talk about preaching Krishna consciousness. One of the main ways is by giving Krishna prasad. There's a saying in English, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. The way to a man's heart is via his stomach, through his stomach. So, of course, prasad is completely transcendental. But that's why we say it's prasad sevai. It's another kind of service. It's part of bhakti to honor prasadam. So that's another of our strict rules. You don't purchase any bread or biscuits or anything, or chocolate. Only that which is cooked by devotees and offered to Krishna with love is suitable food for a Vaishnava. Because the devotee is interested in purification, not sense gratification. So you may think, well, this is a very high standard. But if we understand these points that are mentioned here, that I am not the body, I am different from the body, I have to be liberated from this material condition and go to Krishna, then automatically you'll want to follow all these things. So this hearing and associating with devotees, that is essential. Even if we think, I've heard it all before, well, maybe, but we should hear it again and again. Because by regular hearing, our conviction becomes strong. For millions of lifetimes, we've been hearing the message that we should enjoy our senses in this material world. Everything in this material world gives the message that we should enjoy it. Everyone in this material world is convinced that we should be enjoying this too. People are fighting with each other. But one thing they all agree on is that everyone thinks I should enjoy. And they fight with others because they think that these people, they are obstructing my enjoyment. So we also, even without associating with materialistic people, in our mind that tendency is there to think I should enjoy this material world. So we have to hear regularly, I am not the enjoyer of this world. I cannot enjoy it. It's not possible. We may think, well, it is possible. I can get a nice house and a nice car and everything will be very nice. So the nature of, but even if we have this material happiness, it eventually becomes the cause of our distress. Because by the force of time, we are ripped away from that. We are forcibly separated by death. So one who has jnana chakshu, the eye of knowledge, he sees all. And he follows the advice, smaran nityam anityadvam. Always remember that everything here is temporary. But that this body should be utilized in the service of Krishna. Krishna is giving here simple instruction, how we can go to the supreme destination. It's not required that we make very complex philosophy. Of course, it's a kind of intellectual sense gratification to try to make everything very complicated. But in Bhagavad-gita, Krishna has presented the topics very simply. There are 5 basic topics in Bhagavad-gita. There are 5 basic tattvas. Actually, that's not topics. Topic is vishaya. But there are 5 tattvas. That's the better word. The 5... what's the word for tattva? Prabhupada says the 5 principal subjects, but it's tattva. It's different from little different vishaya. Yeah, all right. Anyway, these 5 tattvas are Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, and Karma. So if we understand all these things very clearly, then we can advance easily on the path of liberation to go to Krishna. We should understand Krishna is the supreme control. I am only meant to serve Him. It may seem that I am independent from Him, but I'm not. Everything is controlled by time. Everything in this material world is subject to time. So now at this particular time, I'm in the human body. So I should utilize this body to serve Krishna and become free from the influence of mundane tasks. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown us the path to the highest ecstasy of love. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially recommended the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam gives us detailed knowledge of Bhagavad Tattva Vijnana, the science of knowledge of Bhagavan. But even more than that, it gives us knowledge of the very sweet dealings between Krishna and his devotees. So bhakti is very sweet and attractive. This morning we were reading from Srimad Bhagavatam about Bhishma Dev's appreciation of Krishna's beauty and Bhishma Dev's appreciation of Arjuna being the friend of Krishna and Krishna being the friend of Arjuna. So these are very sweet topics. Bhakti is very sweet, but it is based on this knowledge given in Bhagavatam. So this basic knowledge is right. So we're distributing these books, Bhagavad-gita, so that people can get this basic knowledge of the science of self. But really, if we are to understand it properly, then we have to approach a bona fide guru who will help us to understand those points. And then we can proceed very nicely on the path of Bhakti. Bhakti is very simple. It is the surrender of the soul to Krishna with pure love and complete faith. That faith is based on knowledge that I am not the body, I am the eternal soul, the eternal soul Krishna. So these temples of these centers of Krishna consciousness all over the world, they are of course meant for cultivating Bhakti, pure devotional service to Krishna. So that Bhakti is very simple and sweet and joyful, but at the same time it is grave, serious, very grave and serious, and with a solid philosophical back. So try to keep this bhakti atmosphere very simple and sweet and serious. I'm traveling to different centers of our ISKCON movement throughout the world, and we find the atmosphere is a little different in each place, each center. We can recognize the true atmosphere of bhakti. It is simple and sweet and serious. By simple, I mean not unnecessarily complicated. Often when we have big temples, it becomes more complex, because then there's different departments and administration and legal affairs and financial affairs and all this kind of stuff. Those devotees who are with Srila Prabhupada in 1966, when the whole temple was about half the size of this room, they thought that was very sweet those days. But eventually it became necessary. For spreading Krishna consciousness, then more facility is required, organization is required. So we hope by the grace of Srila Prabhupada that here in Vellore also there should be some big center for this Krishna consciousness. Why? It's of course starting so gradually. We had some small center, now it's a little bigger. We should have a very good center. But this morning we went to see some lands which, if Krishna so desires, then we may utilize those lands for making some nice temple for Krishna's service. But we have to maintain this simple mode. Simple means everyone understands that we are all here together to serve Krishna. Things become complex when people start thinking in terms of I, me and mine, either on the gross platform or the subtle platform. So try to keep everything very simple and sweet, and at the same time very serious. We may be surprised. We see devotees chanting and dancing, and we may think, well, it's just some kind of, just like at the wedding party, like something like that. At the wedding, they're all jumping and singing. In North India, we see that more. But it's just some kind of personal enjoyment. So in Krishna consciousness, there's dancing and singing, and that is very important. It's singing the names of Krishna is the essence of bhakti. But at the same time, it's very serious, because we realize that we have to serve Krishna. We have to get free from this material attachment. So keep everything simple and sweet and serious, and keep a very pure atmosphere. In Kali Yuga, it's very easy just to dissolve into all kinds of petty arguments and blaming. This is the nature of Kali. We can only get free from the influence of Kali if we realize this quarreling influence. If everyone realizes that I am the servant of the servant of the servant of servant of the servant of the servant of the servant, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. Servant of the servant of Krishna. Of course, in an organization, there has to be someone is a leader. But in Krishna consciousness, the qualification of the leader is that he understands I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. So it can be difficult to. One has to cultivate this mood of being servant. That is possible to do regularly here. Anyway, we have to serve. If we don't become the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, then we become the servant of our senses, and we serve our families and our dogs and everything. We forget to serve Krishna. So please remain simple and sweet and serious and surrender to Krishna. Hare Krishna. Is there any question about this? I'm coming here after 10 months. It's quite a long break. I've been coming here for many years. When did I first come? Can you remember? You don't know. You were a young boy at school when I was coming.
98.
98. I'm asking Jai Govinda Rams. 88.
98.
Not before 98?
We were first had in the Mandapam.
Yeah. That's only 98. Not before that. I think I must have come.
Joined in 96, probably 97.
Then I came before you came to this. So 96. At least 11 years, I think. So things are gradually developing. Now, like I say, I came after 10 months. It's quite a long time. Usually I've been coming more regularly. But somehow, I have to. Last few years I'm going round the world once a year. So I have so many places to go, so many things to do. I became somewhat delayed. Anyway, it's very nice to see that everything is expanding. There are more and more devotees. Everyone is happily cooperating to spread Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Many thanks to all the devotees here for your efforts in spreading this movement. And I can thank on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, who traveled all over the world to nourish the ISKCON movement. As the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of Srila Prabhupada, I'm also traveling around and seeing some of the centers, how they're going on. Many thanks to all the devotees here, especially to Kinchan Krishna Prabhu, who's the chief servant of the servant of the servant of the servant here. He can't translate, but you have to, because you're the servant, so you have to translate. You have to do, I'm telling you this. So everyone has to have a competition. Who can be the greatest servant? Means the most humble. Competition means you try to show I'm number one, but in Vaishnava competition, you have to show how I'm last. It means we should practice bhakti very seriously, but not advertise, just try to be the humble. So any question, please?
Heaven, spiritual heaven, Vaikuntha,
well, Svarga, that's within the material world. Vaikuntha is beyond the material world. And Golok, that is the topmost area of Vaikuntha. So there's a question here. Do you want to read it out? Where is it? Where's the question? Here.
In Chaitanya Leela also, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was doing some Leelas type. Then he was planting the mango seed. Immediately it became a mango tree and it gives fruits. Not only that, nowadays so many these groups, they are doing so many things and people are believing with Savada. How we can convince that when he says Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of God, not his own.
Yeah. Well, just like that mango Leela, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that to serve his devotees. So like that, he did some things like that. Okay. What happened, one incident, all his devotees had been doing kirtan for some time. So they were feeling hungry. He asked them, what would you like to eat? They said mangoes. So he took one mango seed and planted it. Immediately a tree came up with so many mangoes. There are incidents like that. But we don't stress that as the essence of his godhood or his Bhagavata. He is praised as Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate, because he gave Krishna prema. So for God there's no miracle. For him it's an ordinary thing. There may be so many magicians. They also get power from him only. So how can we convince these people who are calling themselves God? We won't, because they're very sinful rascals. Persons who claim themselves to be God are very sinful. But at least people who are less contaminated, they should understand what are the symptoms of the actual Bhagavan. That we can do by lecturing like this, by distributing these books, by giving actual knowledge. Then people get jnana chakshusha and they become free from it. One important point also is that if we are actually becoming spiritually advanced, then we should become free from bad habits. So if people talk of, they say love God, but they're eating meat or even drinking coffee, then where's the love of God? I mean, they're not on a very high platform. So intelligent people should consider us. We're distributing books so that people can get a clear understanding of what is actual religion and what is not. Those who are more sincere, they will appreciate. You see, you can't convince someone who's determined not to be convinced. Srila Prabhupada gave the example that you can wake someone up who's sleeping, but if someone's pretending to be asleep, you can't wake them up because they're determined to go on pretending that they're asleep. Just like, you say 2 plus 2 equals 4. Someone says, no, it's 5. So you can show them, one, take 2 apples, another 2 apples, you get 4 apples. They'll make some argument, no, you see in the shop there's more apples, so you can say it's 5. They'll make some stupid argument, and to them it seems very realistic. So if people are determined to be in Maya, then it's difficult to help them. So you can't force people to be intelligent. These books will appeal to more sincere people. Anything else?